I think of the second group, May the 7th. I think May the 7th, 8th, and 9th. I think.
Yeah, they
I'm not
started
sure.
forklift, all right.
Yeah, I haven't received. Wait, let's see now. Maybe it's coming this morning. I'm just looking for. Forgive me now for a second. I'm just looking for the schedule. Group 2. Your group 2 learners, learners. That's the sync. No, I don't see a schedule, so I'm not sure how it is.
I think it's warehouse fundamentals for the first 3 days, and then it's first aid, and then we're last to the forklift then.
Yeah, I got it. It's just, I see it now. It's actually showing me, well, then that's wrong. It's showing me, let me see what this is saying. Okay, course registration, yes. No, it's actually showing me everybody's on forklift. Oh no, group 2, I see the way you have it now. There's group 1 and group 2. Yeah, you've got Warehouse Fundamentals, which covers introduction to forklifts, career planning. You've got on Friday.
Oh, yeah.
And Monday, Tuesday. Oh, good God.
Yeah.
You have 3 days of career planning. Right. And then you've got 3 days of first aid. BH or bank holiday. And then you're into, you have theory and then you have forklift. Okay. Marcella Healy. It's Marcella Healy doing forklifts. Maybe I'm not getting this right. Oh yeah, okay, Marcella Healy's on the other side, career planning. All right, okay, so that's fairly straightforward, guys. So you've got a 4-week course. You'll have first aid, you'll have career planning, you'll have warehousing, and you'll have forklifts. That's quite an intense course. That's quite good. Yeah. All right. Okay. Anybody got any plans? Any future promised work or anything like that?
No, not yet.
Nothing yet. All right. Okay. Good morning. All right, guys, you're going to have to forgive me now. I have to ask you to pronounce your first name. If I could, is it Pretty? You've no volume. Pretty, yeah?
Yeah, Pretty.
Okay, Pretty. Okay, thank you. Eugene, that's fairly straightforward. Eugene, good morning to you.
Yes, but actually it's on Ukrainian, it's like U Yevgeny start with Y.
Okay, now you're... So, pronounce it for me.
Y, E, V, I, H, N, Y, I guess.
And how do you pronounce that? How do you pronounce it?
Yevgeny.
Euheny.
Yes.
Euheny. Okay, I'm going to call you Eugene if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
If you don't mind, because that's exactly what it's
on English. It's going to be Eugene.
Yeah, it's Eugene. Okay, so I've got Yuri. I've got obviously myself. This is Jerry, Patrick, Aaron, Pretty, Eugene, and Georgie. Is it? Giorgi. Can you pronounce that for me, sir, please? I think he's actually you've lost him away. Gior, there he is now. You're back in. You keep dropping on me. Can you pronounce your name for me, please? That's Giorgi. it keeps dropping. Okay, let's give him a chance to get in. All right, the story with myself. When we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've only got 6 of you. We're still waiting for two more to join. So let's give it a few minutes. So I haven't even received an attendance sheet yet, which is unusual for Jenny. You've all met Jenny. Have you been speaking to Jenny?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Was she at the presentation yesterday morning?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't asked to go down, so they didn't ask me. I don't know why. FET, and it's 4225050. Date is today, the 23rd. Okay. Good morning, good sir. Giorgi. Can you pronounce that for me, please? You're on mute. You're on mute. Open up your microphone. Your microphone is switched off. Your microphone is switched off. Wait, let's see if I can get you and tell me what you hear. Now, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I understand, and I don't have this one microphone. I don't have only this one. Sorry.
Okay,
Today.
no problem at all. Can you please pronounce your first name?
Oh, very good, very nice. Yeah, everything okay. Yeah.
Okay. Can you please pronounce your first name?
First name George.
Yeah.
George.
It is Georgie, is it? George. Okay, well, that's
George.
easy enough.
George.
George.
Nice to meet you. George Mekrishvili. George
I'm
Mekrishvili.
not even going to attempt your second name, George. I think your first name is good enough for me. Thank you, sir. It's like what
Thank
most
you.
of you. Yeah, it's hard to get used to the different names. Okay, so we have got Aaron, George, Patrick, Prithi, Eugene, and Yuri. Okay, we're still waiting for.
Yeah.
6. So we're waiting for 2 more people. And we'll see.
Okay.
We'll just give them a few minutes. They might be having problems trying to get the computer up and running or getting LinkedIn. You know, it's all right. There's someone in the waiting room now. Oh, good God! Wait to see this name, guys.
Yes.
I'm not even gonna try. Good morning, good sir. Can I ask your Volodymyr, is it?
Me?
Yes, you, yeah.
Mark Heffernan. Thank you very much.
Oh, Mark, I do apologize. The name that's coming up is CTC24VOLODYMR.
Oh, it is. I can actually see that.
So I'm going to change it, okay?
Thank you.
Right, what's your name again, Mark?
Mark Heffernan.
Heff, is it?
Hefffernan.
That's grand. Thank you, Mark. I tell you, Mark, it's a lot easier, Mark, to pronounce that now than it is. I wasn't even going to attempt it, to be honest. M-A-R-K. N-A-N, yeah. Okay, Mark. That's you in, and we're just one more. Let's give it a couple of minutes, and we'll see what happens. So tell me, while we're waiting, are you all Cork-based?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We've nobody from Limerick or Kerry, the beautiful county of Kerry, or Dungarvan, Waterford, or like that. No, we're all Cork.
But like where we're living or where we're from?
No, where you're living. Sorry, where you're living.
Yeah.
Yeah, all Cork. Because it's I think the last course I had down in Cork we'd one guy, he was based in, is it Rathbeal? Is it in Limerick? Is it Rathbeal or?
I think so, yeah.
Out near Newcastle West,
Yeah.
you know. But he had to travel in all the way in to do his forklift training every day. That's dedication to me. That's just, you know, listen, it's good to see it. And what are you guys intending on doing after the course? You know, obviously, are you going out looking for work as forklift drivers or operators or warehouse operatives?
Yeah.
That's the idea. Yeah. Okay. Is there a demand down there in Cork for that type of work, this type of work?
Seems to be.
Yeah, mainly around Little Island and stuff like that.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as I see, you know.
Yeah. Because again, I tell you what's standing out in Cork is your port. Cork port has really come alive over the last 2 to 3 years. You know,
They put a load of money into Ringaskiddy.
Ringaskiddy, yeah.
Yeah, a load of money.
And I don't think they've stopped there. I think it's really lifting off. And again, that's good for Cork. It's good for employment in the area. It'll bring a lot of business into Cork, which means obviously they're going to have warehousing, which means, you know, more work for you guys on forklift training. But the idea of warehousing, it's fairly, like, I go through the basic fundamentals of warehousing. There's a lot of stuff, like I've got a course there for that's 23 weeks long, you know, on warehousing and supply chain and, you know, storage. We don't need to do that. It's just the basic fundamentals. What I go through with you first is the basic principles around forklift work, right? I look at all the health and safety around it, you know, the dangers around forklifts. And then I look at things like, you know, the education, the salaries, around the salaries, the knowledge, you know, I look at all that type of the practical stuff around forklifts. And then I take a look at warehousing. You know, we look at cross-docking, we look at the different operations, the different types of racking that's in a warehouse, that type of thing. It's the basic fundamentals. So it'll give you some idea. And that's your 3 days with me. And then you go on to do, I think I said earlier, it's CV writing, and then first aid, which is, you know, it's very, very good to have. And it's not just basic first aid, it's actually first aid responder, which is good to have. It's a good certificate to hold in your back pocket. And then your forklifts. Are they doing the 3 forklifts with you? Reach, counterbalance, and power pallet?
I think so, yeah.
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 You'd need it. With our driving courses or heavy HGVs, both rigid and Arctic, we're now changing. We had those 3 on it, but we're now changing it to counterbalance, power pallet truck, and the Moffat. The Moffat has become very popular. That's the one that sits on the back of the trailer. Do you know the one I'm talking about? It's actually carried by the truck itself. It's connected to the back of the trailer.
Yeah, on a 3-wheel one, was it?
The 3-wheel one, yeah. And they drop it off so they can unload and load their own trailers, which obviously is very handy. But it's become very, very popular right around the country. We took out the Reach because, again, the Reach forklift is a forklift that's used mainly inside a warehouse. Okay, so you wouldn't get truck drivers using the Reach truck. So I got the guys to take that out and put in the Moffat. You know, makes sense. But you guys would be obviously Reach truck, counterbalance, and power pallet, PPT, power pallet truck. All right. I think we'll go ahead. It's 9:15 now, so there's no sense in hanging about. Let me see if I got it. No, I've asked for an attendance sheet. I haven't got it, so we'll take a look at it. Okay, my name is Jerry Meredith. I work with Hearty People as a contractor trainer. I've covered quite a bit in my day. My background is transport, distribution, warehousing, logistics. I've had my own company. I've sold my own company, and I went into shooting in 2003. I had a company up to then, and I've sold it on, and it was a very large company with 5 depots around the country, and I sold it on to a multinational. And then I went into training, and I've been doing a lot of lecturing and tutoring since then. I lecture for UL on the transport management safety, but also transport managers for their state exam, the CPC state exam, which is twice a year. So that's really a brief background of what I've been at and what I do. I think I'm with Hartley about 2 years, maybe 3 years now. Quite a good company. What I find is their coordinators, their project coordinators are very, very good. There's 2 I like dealing with in there, and don't tell them this, but they're my favorites, and that is Jenny Ryan and a girl called Michelle. And I find them very, very good. And normally I can deal with them and I go back to them. If there's issues, I go back to them, and then normally are there. They're very, you find they're very approachable, and they'll basically, they'll get to the bottom of any issue you have, So if you need any advice, they're quite forward. They're quite, they're good at coming forward with anything you need. So your contact, for the next 4 weeks is Jenny, and utilize her. You have any problems at all, or if you need time out, just ask for it. There really isn't an issue. There isn't an issue. I mean, the way I start off my programs is I say to everybody, look, we are all adults. We all have commitments. We all have little things that we need to do, such as drop the kids to school in the morning time, or bring the children, one of the children, to the doctor, or your own appointment if you have an appointment yourself, or an interview. I know they say you've got to be online from 9 to 4. You're not online from 9 to 4 because we have to take breaks. Legally, we have to take breaks, right? I normally work at that. We're online. We start at 9, 9:30 actually. I look at 9:30 starts. We break around 11 o'clock for a half an hour. We work until 12:30. We break from 12:30 probably till 1, 2 o'clock, depending on how we're getting along, and then we finish around 3:30, 4:15. That's your day with me. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
No issues with that. Normally, I get one guy come on to me and say, "Oh, geez, do we need to be on our computer that long?" That's the norm. But no, listen. Like I said, if you need to go off, if you need to do anything, just let me know. Now I can only speak for myself over the next 3 days. I've no idea. I've no idea who comes on to do CVs with you and what they're like, or the first aid. First aid, you're definitely going to be stuck first aid for the 3 days. There's a lot to learn on first aid, and it's certified. You've actually got a certificate, for 3 years, I think it is, before it's been renewed. And my advice to you is, grasp it, take it, pass the test, and hold that certificate. But refresh. You have to refresh it. You have to do a refresher course every 3 years. Same with your forklifts. You have to do a refresher course. I think it's 3 years with the forklifts. So make sure you keep it up to date. Because
how long is the refresher course for the forklift? Like a couple of days?
I think it's only. I think now again, Mark, don't quote me, but I think it's a day. I think it's a day because what's your schedule like? How long are you doing forklifts? Do you know?
2 weeks.
As in, you have 2 weeks on it.
Pretty
10
sure,
days.
yeah.
Jesus, 10 days. Yeah. All right.
So for the wasn't like for this course you mean, or in general?
No, this course. That's what I'm saying. It's
2 weeks. Group 1 have started today, and they're on SNR. If that means anything to you, for a good few days. I think for the first week, and then then it's more SNR, and then Power Safe for the last 3 days, and they swap with us.
Right. Okay. All right. Just 2 weeks is a lot. It's a lot of time. It's 4.5 days. 4.5 days. Yeah. Okay. So look, you're gonna have to. Sorry. Excuse me 1 second, guys. Please, just 1 second. I was gonna step over.
right. Now, can you hear me guys? All right, if I have to take it off mute. Are we okay, yeah? All right, sorry. Just forgive me for a second. I'm actually working from home for the next few days. That's, as you can see, a little background on this. My father-in-law is very ill, so I'm just waiting. That's why I take my headphones off. I'm just waiting for the doctor to arrive, so I want to let him in and just have a few words with him. It'll only be literally 5 minutes in and out. So I'm just waiting. I left the door open, just waiting for him to come. So forgive me if I've just got to walk away. I'll be on the headphones after that once he's gone. Okay. So where was I at? I'm sorry, I was totally distracted there. Yeah, we were talking about timeout and things like that. I'm not sure. There's a lot. 2 weeks is a lot of time to spend on forklifts. It's normally 6 to 7, maybe 7 days. But look, it is what it is. Take it all in. You just might find that you're not there for 2 weeks. Look, take it all in and see how it goes. I'll go through the basics with you, and there's a couple of questions that I'll give them to you tomorrow morning when we start on the actual warehousing itself. And you can, listen into the program, you'll grab the answers to them and just send them on back to me. It's not charging, it is, yeah. Okay, so are we okay to get started? Yeah, we are missing one person off the group. Who is that? Nigel Graham, yeah. Oh, no, hang on. It's Graham. It's Pretty, Patrick, Mark, Aaron, Yuri, Eugene, we'll go, George. Some guy called Graham? I don't know. All right.
А что надо делать? Слышишь?
So I set this up and live. Okay. All right, you can all see that screen, can you?
Yeah.
All right. Now, just looking around, minimizing the severe injury and fatality risk in warehouse operations, and that's the first thing we're going to look at today, right, is how do you minimize it? Because we do have fatalities, we do have serious injuries in warehousing, like severe injury and fatalities. And by the way, they're caused by you, as in personnel, exposure. Okay, it's you being exposed to hazardous energy, and warehouse operations continue to present employees and contractors with a high probability of exposure to sources of motion. Now, when I say sources of motion, I mean forklift to human, right, or forklift to forklift. The other one is the gravitational energy, right? Gravitational energy, when I mention that, I mean objects that are dropping from shelves, racking, right? And we put it out as a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy of control, okay, which provides warehouse operations and safety professionals with a technology-based approach to reducing these exposures. Now, each plan of action, it must be considered, right, under the dual premise of impact, right? How much, for example, how much the probability or severity is reduced, and the ease of implementation, right? In terms of time, money, and of course, people, the people in the warehouse, right? Now, there are many quick wins that pair substantial risk reduction, okay, with the minimal requests for different resources. And that hierarchy of controls, it's often referenced in safety management, okay? However, it is not always followed as intended. You know, you're all familiar with the phrase, what am I thinking of here? Taking shortcuts, right? That happens in business too. You know, in warehousing, people take shortcuts. As in, they don't stick to, the hierarchy of controls for safety. And that's how we end up with people being injured in warehouses. And we've had a couple of fatalities, both inside and outside the warehouse, but in the confines of the warehouse. The hierarchy of controls should always include, right, at the top of the hierarchy is elimination, right? So elimination, what that means is actually removing the hazard from the workplace, right? That's the very first one that we should all, attempt to do, is remove the hazard, okay? And that way you don't have the hazard. You don't have to worry about the danger. But if we can't remove it, I mean, you can't remove forklifts out of a warehouse, can you? You need forklifts in a warehouse. So the hazard is always going to be there. So what you have to do then is you've got to replace it or substitute, right? Replace the high risk situation with a lower risk situation. The next step in the hierarchy would be the engineering controls. So what we mean by that is using technology to prevent an exposure. And then we come down to administrative controls. And that's using programs or policies to prevent an exposure. And then the final layer, the final one is your PPE. And that's, the personal protection equipment. So that's the hierarchy of controls in order to eliminate or to manage the risk of exposure to danger for you, the employee, right? And every single company you go to work for should have that hierarchy of control. They should be able to either eliminate the risk of danger to you, or they should be able to manage it. Okay? That's what's important in safety management within any business, by the way, not just warehousing, any business. But with warehousing, the fact that you are using forklifts, the fact that you are operating machinery that can kill, right? Think about it. The weight of that machine, the speed at which you travel, that's the danger. Okay? And we've got to look at that. And we've got to be, let's look into it. Let's see what can be eliminated. At a first glance, it's very easy to assume, that in elimination now, that this top level of control is not feasible in a warehouse environment. It's very easy to assume that, and it's often assumed. But a warehouse, because it requires people to operate the equipment and move materials, right? You know, in the name of logistics, right? So that's what's needed of you. The warehouse requires you to operate the equipment. You know, and when operating that equipment, you're moving materials throughout the warehouse, right? And you know, there's another name for warehousing, which is logistics, right? Warehousing is part of the supply chain of logistics. All right. Furthermore, the forklifts are necessary, obviously, to make heavy lifts and to facilitate material handling. And legislation actually is provided, and it's there to, you know, ensure companies provide Section 68 and 69, right, of the Health, Safety and Welfare Act of 2007, because the General Applications and Regulations actually in 2007, which amended the 2005 Act, clearly states in Section 68 and 69, it clearly states that a company must provide material handling equipment in order to facilitate manual handling. So they have to provide equipment to prevent you from manual handling. In other words, trying to lift boxes, heavy boxes, or move heavy items. They are responsible for that. They must provide that for you, right? But when you think of the amount of work that you're going to be doing in the warehouse, it's not always possible, right, to get to use the units that are there. You know, that's why we say elimination is not an easy task, but we look upon it as an option. You know, there is a system called automated storage and retrieval systems, a retrieval system. It's short is the ASRS, right? And that delivers an environment free of people and powered industrial vehicles. Let me just, if I may, here I have it. Yeah, there is there. That's what I'm talking about. That's an ASRS, right? Obviously, you can see it's a narrow wheel. A very clean narrow wheel, by the way. And that's the way every unit should be. And it's racked both sides. You can see the rack protectors. This massive forklift here, right? It's what's called an AVG. It's all autonomous. So technology runs that forklift and it tells it where to pick up and where to drop off goods. It just has to pick it up at the end of the aisle and off it goes on its own. Now, there are some of these can be man up, man down, right? Some of them will require operators to operate them. But that's just, you know, it's a picture explaining ASRS, which is automated storage and retrieval systems. It puts away product and it also collects product for you, right? Now, that particular system itself delivers an environment free of people. And as I said, powered industrial vehicles, such as forklifts. Now, since the ASRS is fully guarded and fully automated, right, the likelihood of exposure to gravitational energy, as in falling pallets or falling loads off the pallet racks, and forklift collision is actually zero during operations, as is the probability of any human error. Now, you often hear the saying, a computer is only as good as, you know, the things that are put into it by the operator, right? So human error can be, you know, an issue with the likes of this because it's computerized. Everything is computerized. Again, that particular system, ASRS, it's designed with tight space tolerance and precise pallet dimensions inside basically an enclosed area. All right. Cranes, automated palletizers, barcoding systems, and engineered conveyor systems. They all eliminate the need for both manual and material handling systems. Again, like sophisticated engineering controls are used in warehouses to prevent entry, and the safety control systems can be designed to the highest level. Now, there is an ISO. Are you all familiar with ISO? The ISO is the International Standards Organization. And the International Standards Organization, they set a level of a standard level in each different industry. And industries themselves have to try and reach that level. And once they reach that level, they get a stamp of approval to say they have been approved for a particular standard. And the standard, the international standard for this particular area is what's called an ISO 13849 -1. So 13849-1 is the ISO standard for this particular warehousing safety, right? And that's to avert any machine movements while persons are authorized to be inside for particular cleaning or servicing or maintaining. Okay, so we're talking about these units here that's on your screen. They all have to be cleaned. They all have to be serviced. They all have to be maintained. But there's a safety control system put in place, right, to allow a machine to be serviced. And that safety control has to be adhered to by everybody. Everyone within the warehouse, right? They, if they have to clean the machine, they must look to the standard and work to the standard. If it has to be serviced or maintained, it's normally a competent person is brought in to do that, as in service or maintain it. This particular system obviously eliminates the conflux of people, also industrial vehicles and loaded pallets, right? Directly reducing the risk of personnel exposure to collisions and dropped goods. Okay, that's what that particular system does. There's also another method of eliminate risk, and that is basically to restrict specific groups of people from accessing the warehouse floor. Often the warehouse is used as a path for non-warehouse operatives to get from point A to point B. Now, warehouses can be managed with individual identification badge access, so that only warehouse workers are within the perimeter of the warehouse. That in itself purely reducing the number of people in a particular defined area, with, of course, with the forklift traffic, right? It directly reduces the probability of a collision between the forklift and the pedestrian. Some warehouses have constructed catwalks, right, that provide a safety pedestrian path up and over where the forklifts operate. A lot of expense goes into that, as you can imagine. The second option for elimination includes non-forklift areas or non-forklift vehicles. Okay, eliminating any maintenance parts traffic, or other non-material handling equipment traffic. That will also directly reduce the probability of vehicle-to-person and also vehicle-to-vehicle collisions. In some warehouses, you have what we call picking carts, right? And that's just a cart, a light cart on four wheels that you're pulling along they're pneumatic wheels. So you're pulling it along, just picking several small items from stock, from SKUs, and you're putting it into this chart. You're going along with it with a list or a handheld iPad, and you're just picking according to an order. They're called carts, picking carts, and you get a lot of them in warehouses with smaller items for picking. But what we're saying is we're trying to eliminate the likes of them because, again, they can be involved in vehicle-to-vehicle collisions. Your little cart could be involved in a collision with a forklift, and we all know the outcome that's going to produce. Right? So, we try and eliminate the likes of them. And with the ASRS, well, obviously, that does eliminate them. Right? But you'll have to use a man down to be able to pick the order. Again, all non-essential pedestrians and vehicle traffic, must be provided with a safe route around the warehouse to make this approach effective. Non-essential people and, vehicles may be admitted into the warehouse with a comprehensive and consistent permit process, with authorization at the highest levels. In the likes of those situations, other precautions, again, to reduce risk and meet the conditions of any particular permit that allows people onto the workshop floor or the warehouse floor. Are you all following me on that? Do you understand where I'm coming from with safety around the warehouse? Yeah. Listen, this is more or less to protect yourself along with other people if you're operating machinery. Okay. Now we will get to how we do all that shortly, but look at best practices, right? And one of the best practices that comes to mind straight away is a painted pedestrian crosswalk, that has been made. It's been put there due to the amount of traffic, right? But it can be substituted with a projected pedestrian crossway, right? And substitution, of one risk element with a lower risk element obviously requires thinking outside the box. Sorry, guys, excuse me a second, please. This is your man looking for you, I'd say. Hello. Yeah, sorry about that. This is what I mean by having, some things to do. We're all adults and that type of thing. We have to take off and do. That was just the doc looking for the location. The what do you call it? The air code. Sorry. Okay, so again, just getting back to substitution. If we can substitute one risk element with a lower risk element, well then, we're going to save injury or damage to, the warehouse racking system or the forklift or other pieces of or other items, that are needed in the forklift. So in order to do that, we have to think outside the box, right? the favorite saying. Let's think outside the box, see what we come up with. Unlike chemistry, where a hazardous chemical can be replaced with a less hazardous chemical, in a reaction process, it's not easy to find suitable replacements for warehouse risks. One example is that's easy to replicate is a substitution of personal clothing, or dull covered uniforms, and substituting them with high visibility uniforms. Neon yellow shirts, jackets, vests, they provide a vivid contrast, insight for any forklift operator. The forklift operator can easily see these things because they're visible. If I walk around the warehouse with a high-vis jacket on, people can see me. Forklift operators can see me. But if I'm in a hoodie with a dark colored hoodie or a navy suit, very, very hard to see me from operating a fork, because you're moving all the time. You're flying around not flying around, please don't fly around the warehouse, but you know what I'm saying? You're in motion all the time. And I could be just walking in the opposite direction. It's going to be very hard for you to make out me in a navy suit or, a black jacket. Whereas if I have a high vis, it catches your eye straight away. Okay? So that type of thing it should be standard procedure. Okay? Right across Europe, the high visibility clothing is considered PPE. Now, as I said to you earlier, PPE is the last on the line of hierarchy, right? Everything else should be tried first to make it safe for you. And then your personal protective equipment is called in then as a last resort for protection. Everything else, elimination, engineering, administrative control, they all come first. You have to have a standard in each of those hierarchies in order to protect you. And the last piece of protection, as a last resort, is PPE, your personal protective equipment. Standardizing high visibility clothing for all warehouse operators provides an alternative approach to identifying people on the floor, the warehouse floor, and provisioning safety bubbles around people or forklift operators. Like, let's think about it. You never come into a warehouse. When you start in the warehouse, you will find you will never be allowed to enter that warehouse without a high visibility jacket, without steel toe cap boots. You may have a hard hat depending on the product you're dealing with. Right? So your safety equipment has to be provided by the company, not you, and you shouldn't have to pay for it. The company has to provide under Section 10 of 2005, the health, safety and welfare of operators within a warehouse. It clearly states that the company must provide you with all your PPE. Okay? So again, it's not only PPE, floor signs. The decay of floor signs, whether they're painted or stickers onto the floor, can be substituted with high definition projection imagery. Now, I'll explain that to you later on. But, your PPE is one thing, but then there's other ways and other, examples of substituting a high risk to a pedestrian within a warehouse. And like I said, high definition projection imagery is just another way. It's another system being brought in, and you will come across it in warehousing nowadays, right? For example, a pedestrian crosswalk that has been made due to the road traffic, can be substituted like for like with a crystal clear projected image, right? And again, projectors can be designed to illuminate crosswalks, stop signs, yield signs, but also other important messages that are difficult to see on the warehouse floor, right? And these projectors can be installed to operate full-time, or they can be triggered from a motion sensor, or like other presence sensing devices. Okay, these are all substitutions. These are all things we can use to, prevent you or other people from being injured by forklifts. AGVs, I spoke about them earlier, automated or automatic guided vehicles. And that's what you see on screen there. That's a very large machine. It's also a very heavy machine. But how that's guided is, see the center of the aisle. You will see an indent in the concrete. Can you all see that? Yeah, that's what guides it. That's what's called an automatic guide, right? And that guide will, that particular piece of that line in the concrete is actually the guide for the machine. Going forward, going back, and also turning the computer will turn the actual forks in under the pallet, lift it, bring it out, turn it back, and drop it down onto the just above the wheels of that, or the guide of that. Okay, so that's how that works. Now, again, you will not be, I don't believe you'll be receiving training on an AGV. Not in this standard program. But when you go into a warehouse, okay, to work, and if you find these machines in them, well, then the company is responsible, for providing training, on these machines. And what you'll find is there'll be an in-house trainer, or there'll be a competent person brought in from a company to train you up on AGVs. All right? Because they're becoming more prevalent in warehouse operations, especially ones that strive for increased accuracy and productivity. Safety is also significant, in order to control and identify and mitigate collision exposures. And if the AGV is considered a substitute for human-powered forklifts, then the combination of lasers, cameras, and other sensor devices take the place of your human eye. All AGVs can be programmed to maintain specific paths and also reduce their speed or immediate stop if specific parameters are not maintained. And believe it or not, these particular machines, the AGVs, they can actually operate in extreme conditions. Now, when I say extreme conditions, I'm talking about chill rooms or blast rooms, freezer blast rooms, freezers. And again, if you think about it, if you're working in one of those, you're exposed to additional risks to your well-being, such as reduced blood circulation. So by putting an AGV in, it's eliminate the exposure to employees. Again, they can operate as safely as they're programmed, with no risk of rushing, complacency, or no risk of it becoming fatigued or frustrated. Sorry, excuse me again, please. Someone at the door. Okay, forgive me again. Sorry, that's just the doctor. I see Graham trying to come into the room now, so let's invite Graham in. Graham, good morning. Good morning, Graham. Can you hear me?
You hear me?
Yeah, I got you now, Graham. Thanks. Yeah. Good morning to you. You well?
All good.
Your headphones not working, no?
No, there's no mic in them.
Yeah, that can be. That's always a problem too with headphones. Sometimes it's not liking them. I'm just waiting for things to clear here in the house, and then I can put my headphones back on. Okay, Brian, we're just going through how we can minimize the likes of accidents, incidents, and collisions with operating forklifts in a warehouse. And we've just explained, some ways, some options for minimizing that risk. We looked at AGVs, which is automated vehicles, and quite good. Like they've proved that they can, over time, we've proved that they can reduce or, completely take out severe injury or fatality incidents within the warehouse. Okay. And we're just going on to look at engineering controls.
Yep.
So you just get in one time. Excuse me, sorry. But the bloody hiccups now, for some reason. Okay. Now, I meant to ask you all, have any of you got commitments in the morning time with regards to trying to get kids to school and that?
No.
No,
Yeah,
anybody?
I do.
Sorry, excuse me. Aaron, you do you?
Yeah.
Anybody else?
No.
Okay. What we'll do is, instead of starting at 9 o'clock, we'll start at 9:30 in the morning. Is that okay with everybody?
That's
Sorry?
perfect.
Yeah. Is everybody happy with that? Yeah. Graham, can you hear me all right, Graham?
No, yeah, I can hear you. No, sorry.
All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to start around 9:30. Sorry, this guy's looking for me. Sorry. Jesus.
No problem. No problem. Stop.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks, Doc. No, sorry. I was just saying there, yeah. If we could kick off at 9:30, we won't delay. It won't delay you when you're not in the daytime. As you'll see, I operate fairly easy going, as they say. Okay. Excuse me. With regards to engineering controls, like an entire book could be written about the various types of engineering controls used to reduce exposure potential within the warehouse, right? But there are two main types of possible energy exposure, okay? And like I said, the motion, as in being struck by a forklift, and the gravitational pull, as being struck by an item dropping off, we say a racking, right? Anti-collision technology is available on most forklift programs or platforms, offering both radio frequency, okay, and of course, sorry, just Give me. Now, as I said, anti-collision technology is available on most forklift programs or platforms, and they offer both radio frequency and ultra-wide band mechanisms, right? And what I mean by that is a system that identifies pedestrians or other forklift traffic. Okay, and normally antennas are installed on forklifts, and tags must be worn by all pedestrians and operatives, and they can be like inner or outer band. They're for different designated areas, such as a bubble, or we call it a bubble area. A cautionary alert. The cautionary alert lifts from leaving or entering, designated as in visual and audible, that can be transmitted at the outer band. And then a red or danger alert, excuse me, and that's also visual and audible, right? Is sent then to both parties if they're in the inner band bubble. If that's breached, well, then the forklift operator and that particular pedestrian, right, will be alerted. Okay, the anti-collision technology, right, can also be utilized to define geofencing, for instance, and that's specifically to prevent, excuse me, forklift areas of the warehouse. Right, one area of excuse me, is the threshold. The threshold between a warehouse dock and, we say, the back edge of a parked trailer that's been loaded and unloaded by the forklifts. You know, forklifts are required to load and unload pallets to and from trailers, often relying on procedures or key control to prevent a premature drive-off by the driver. Right? There are certain dock restraints and what we call integrated wheel lock systems, right? And they're all commercially available to provide the dock employee with the ultimate right control over the trailer's motion. It happens when trailers are backed into the dock, right, with a green light. Right, the driver can see it in his mirrors. Okay, excuse me. And that initiates the process of controlled process steps that lock the trailer in place, right? It also allows the dock door to open and give way for the dock leveling device to span the threshold from dock to trailer, right? The outer light changes to green, or sorry, to red, from green to red, okay? And that's communicated to the driver that they cannot leave, they cannot pull away. And then an indoor light turns green. And that's communicating to the forklift driver that it's safe to actually, you know, go onto the trailer to unload or to reload. Okay, the trailer, the forklift or dock operator, they're the only person who can actually release that trailer, changing the outdoor light from red, right, back to green. And again, that's communicating to the driver that they may pull away from the dock. Another example of engineering control is a vehicle presence sensor. Okay, and that's where specific sensors are designed to identify the presence of an approaching vehicle, but not pedestrians or vehicles moving away from the sensor. And these sensors are normally mounted, excuse me, on the walls or from a ceiling, right? And again, once the sensor registers the oncoming vehicle, it can send a signal to an audible alert. And like that can also include a computerized stop zone or a visual alert, which could be a strobe light, or it can go to rejected sign or image, as we described earlier. Okay. There's also the use of high visibility bollards and rails that can separate pedestrian traffic from forklift traffic. And that's an efficient way to respect areas designated for either one or the other, either pedestrians or forklifts. Now, bollards and rails, they should be designed and installed to prevent total failure if struck by a forklift. Okay? Now, these systems are commonly available within the industry. Have any of you operated in the warehouse before?
Oh, never.
No, anybody?
Yeah.
Aaron, are you familiar with what we're talking about here?
Yeah, I've
Bollards and rails and things like that.
yeah, I've worked in Musgraves before. They had all those.
Musgraves, right?
Yeah.
Well, they'd operate a fairly safe system, I would gather, would they?
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they're very. They're on top of it most time, anyway.
Oh yeah, I'd say so. Again, it's something that's it's a must. It's a must in all warehousing.
Yeah.
But, aside from all those, like high visibility, right? That can be also applied to forklifts and other powered industrial vehicles, in the warehouse. There's a thing now that's come out of late is blue LED spotlights. Like they're becoming more commonplace on warehouse vehicles. Again, to increase the visibility to pedestrians and of course to other forklift operators. The LED spotlights, they're placed on the front end and the back end of the forklift, and it casts an intense blue beam of light, to the oncoming path, regardless of whether the vehicle is driven forward or is in reverse. All right. So eliminating is, as I said to you, the top end, the most, I suppose, hierarchy of elimination of dangers to pedestrians and forklift operators. And the next one then is the administrative control, right? And when I say administrative control, what I'm talking about is policies and procedures and rules. They all constitute the administrative control. And, it's no secret that these are only as strong as the culture and the compliance dictates. These controls could be described as strong or as the weakest link. Basically, what I mean by that is any deviation or omission constitutes a precursor, right? Which can lead to an increased probability of exposure to all hazards. All it takes is one person to deviate from the administrative control to put themselves or others in harm's way. A spaghetti diagram, right, or plot, is a method of viewing the flow of both forklift traffic, and potential intersections of both. A simple administrative control is to designate pedestrians and for forklifts and other vehicles. Now, typically, these pathways would be separated again by bollards or rails. A weaker mechanism is to provide floor markings or lines of separation for both groups. The lowest approach is to risk reduction, right? Is to use procedures or rules to designate who can move through with which areas. Now, these type of controls are inexpensive to implement. However, they do provide a very low impact right, to risk reduction process, especially in companies or organizations with a high injury rate or an immature safety culture. PPE, right? We all know what PPE is, your personal protective equipment. Now, like I said earlier, that is the lowest layer of protection available to all warehouse operatives. Although it is crucial to prevent mishaps with material handling devices such as power pallet trucks, obviously safety shoes or shoes with steel toe caps that meet, the standards required. And the standards required is a CE standard, right? And they're designed, obviously, to provide a barrier from dropped objects or from objects in motion, including your power pallet truck. But I think I've got, just bear with me a second now. I think you're going to see a picture here of, I'm sure I have it on this, a pair of boots that were actually, steel toe cap boots damaged by a PPT, a power pallet truck. Look at them, okay, they're fairly worn, them boots, but look at the damage a power pallet truck could cause injury to an operative. If that operative hadn't got those steel toe cap shoes, could you imagine the state of his feet now, or her feet now? That's how important it is, to wear your protective equipment. Now, I've done assessments, safety assessments in different warehouses around the country, and you wouldn't believe the amount of forklift operators that operate with a pair of runners on their feet, just ordinary runners. And when they're approached and asked what the hell are they doing, they'll tell me, "But sure, I'm sitting in this forklift all the time. I don't have to get off it. I don't have to get out of it." My point to them is, how did you get from the staff canteen or the staff, lockers area to that forklift, and from the forklift, to the canteen? Oh, well, I go this way, I go that. They have to get off the forklift sometimes, so they should be wearing at all times their safety shoes. Now, I know safety shoes cannot be all times, the most comfortable to wear. Okay, but there's a reason you're required to wear them, and that is to protect your feet at all times. So, and by the way, it's legislated for. You must wear your PPE if it's provided. You don't have a choice. You're breaking the law if you don't wear it. But remember, at all times, it's there to protect you. That's the only reason that people spend money on them. Okay, so we're at that level of PPE. Excuse me a second, sorry. We're at that level of PPE. Guys, I just got to sit in with these people outside. Can I ask you all to take a break? And we'll see you back here at 11 o'clock. Is that okay? Go and get some breakfast, coffee, or whatever we need. And
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
all right. See you back at 11 o'clock. Sorry,
Thanks.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How do we end this? As we just leave, no?
Жека, до 11, да, он сказал перерыв? Да, 40 минут, Павел. 11 o'clock, да? Я на почту запущу. Да, не, я на почту погнал, короче. Все, давай. Давай.
Сказать, что пересадить.
Я не знала, точнее,
Они могут не трогать. Еще не факт. Потому что на играх заседает, там где хорошие условия. Старый